The base has dropped on a championship city, ladies and gentlemen. Atlanta United won MLS Cup last night. Some of you might not have slept. Some of you might still be celebrating. Who knows? It's going to be one of those weekends, weeks. There's a parade on Monday, if you didn't know about it. There will be all kinds of stuff going on. But right now, what's also going on is the MLS trade window. And myself and Jarrett Smith have done this the last 2 years. This is our third straight trade window morning after MLS Cup show. I don't know, Jarrett. I have no idea why we do this.
There's nothing but chaos.
Yes, but this one's a little different, eh? This one, we're not talking about Toronto and Seattle boring us to tears in back-to-back MLS Cups. This is Atlanta United comfortably winning 2-0. I mean, not even really that worried as the match went on. It was one of those kind of just comfortable wins. We're also joined off the top while he is writing a story that you'll be able to read over at ajc.com by Doug Robertson. Doug, what's up?
How are y'all?
We're good.
Delirious.
I got home. I didn't leave the stadium until probably 1:30, 1:45-ish. And I got home about 2:30, I guess. And then I couldn't sleep. I went back and watched a lot of the game back. I didn't watch all of it. I didn't quite make it to the end, but what about you, Doug? When did you leave, and how much more stuff do you have to write?
I left about 1:30, 1:15. I got home around – I live in Carrollton, so I got home around 2:30, driving in that nightmare of weather last night.
Was terrible.
It got to sleep. I didn't have any trouble sleeping. I got to sleep about 3, woke up about 9, kind of looked at the paper online. Need to go buy a bunch of copies.
Yes.
Same.
And asked my boss what I needed to write. And that was a little follow on Gerardo Martino. So I'm about to wrap that up. And then I've got to see if Atlanta United is going to do anything in the trade window. I was told last night that they had expected to be quiet, but I'm sure y'all have heard some of the same rumors that I've heard. So you never know. I think last year I was told they were going to be quiet, and then we got a trade for Darlington Nagbe. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
The Nagbe deal did come after the window. This is an interesting time because you have another hour 55 to complete deals. Now, we might not hear about them right before 1 o'clock. I think we will. Generally, there's not too many that are completely under the radar that we don't hear about till later this afternoon. There's not a ton of chatter just yet, but there's a couple teams that are linked to moves. Doug mentioned a rumor that I have not seen any follow-up on. It originated with a Vancouver blog about Greg Garza potentially being traded to Vancouver. Have not seen anyone else mention anything about it. It's a blog that's covered the Whitecaps for a long time. I know who they are, Glass City FC, but haven't seen anything beyond that.
I was conversing with someone from that blog last night via email, and we both don't understand this rumor because it doesn't make sense for either team. Vancouver has a young Canadian back who apparently is supposed to be have a lot of potential.
Is it Brett Levi's?
Expected to yes, and it's expected to play next year. So trading for Garza, both for a cap reason because Vancouver is not a big spending team, and for just filling that position with a guy who is going to get a lot of playing time in Garza doesn't make a lot of sense. I could see maybe if something got confused and they want Ambrose, who I think has a lot of potential, though coming off a knee injury, that might make a little more sense. The two could split time. Or even a McCann, if he wants more playing time. I don't know, but not Garza.
Yeah, it seemed weird, and it's one of those for me when I see a rumor like that, and I'm not saying anything negative about Glass City FC. I've known of them for a while, covering the Whitecaps, but when I see a rumor like that from a source like that, I'm waiting for other people to see if they start chiming in, and we haven't seen this yet. So stay tuned on that one. The couple moves that are being rumored around the league at the moment, Dallas is rumored to be trading Tesho Akindele to Orlando. That's coming from Paul Tenorio. And Orlando's also linked to picking up last year's number 1 pick in the Super Draft, João Moutinho from LAFC, and they would be dealing Mohamed El Munir out west. Orlando's got to be busy, I think. They've got to try to take advantage of this chance to upgrade their roster, but, Doug, they don't have a GM either.
Yeah, see, I'm of a different opinion regarding Orlando. I think more than anything, they need stability. They need to let the manager work with what's there for a while rather than, again, change everything over like they did last season. I think they do have pieces to be a good team. I don't think it's a MLS Cup winning team by any stretch. I guess they could add a couple of complementary things, but to do wholesale changes, especially without a GM, I think it's going to result in the exact same thing next year as they've experienced the previous couple of years.
I think they need that stability up top, and O'Connor's a big part of that, although I'm honestly not 100% convinced he is the right guy at this point, but I don't think you can risk him not being the right guy right now. I mean, I think you have to go with it and see what happens. They do need some stability in the core of that roster, but they've also got to find some upgrades. I'm not convinced Moutinho is a huge upgrade. I don't know where he plays yet, and that was the issue with him at LAFC. Yeah. They tried him at left back, and he's not a left back. I think he's probably a 6 or an 8. Yeah, I think he's probably a 6 or an 8. He's very technical. He's just not all that physical. So I don't know.
He's another guy like Hart, in that people want to say, "Oh, he's going to be so good," and then you see him on the field, and it's like I don't get it. I don't see it. The draft to me is just an exercise almost in futility at this point, because you have to pick people, and then just simply based upon the number where they're picked, they suddenly get tabbed with all this potential and all this stuff that they simply don't possess yet. And Moutinho, who was the top pick, is another one. We saw him play this year. I watched him on television a few times. He's a good passer. Mm-hmm. He reads the game okay, but other than that, he seems just like a lot of other players in Major League Soccer, and certainly not someone that I would say, oh my goodness, he's going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, that's the thing about him to me. Like, in a system like Atlanta, where soccer players and technical soccer players are prioritized, I could see him finding a spot, not among starting with this team right now, but I could see him fitting into this type of team. The problem is there's not a lot of teams like this, and there's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to make a guy like him fit in a defensive role. So I don't know. I don't know what happens with that. I like El Munir, actually. I don't know if that's a good move for Orlando or not. The other rumor that's out there that I've seen so far, Stephen Goff of the Washington Post has Zach McMath heading to Vancouver from Colorado. No idea what's going the other way.
What the damn hell, Colorado?
Exactly, Jarrett. Why do you deal McMath right now with Tim Howard probably done?
Howard,
why did you keep him for this long?
It ain't 2014, y'all.
I don't know. Howard hasn't said anything, so I don't know if he's coming back or not. But you've kept Zach McMath on the bench in bubble wrap for this long, and you're going to trade him now when you might want to play him because Tim Howard might be done? What?
Yeah, that's bad management. Unless there's just something we don't know.
Or there's just a blowaway offer, Or yeah, you're right. It could be, an option year where it's going to be a huge contract, or Vancouver's offering the farm for him, and then it's a different conversation. But the optics are not good here, and that's the tricky thing.
Orlando needs a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
they didn't pick up the option on Bendick.
They
could do a lot worse than McMath.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway,
well, let's we haven't seen anything officially break yet in terms of trades, and that's typical. Usually the first couple of hours are just warming up in this trade window. Let's let's talk a little bit about last night and the chaos at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Doug, when I went back and listened, and I know you guys are in the press box, and I mean we have the window open, we can hear everything, but we have to I literally have to turn it down a good bit so I can hear Mike, because if we had the window open and I didn't have my headphones over my ears, I would not be able to hear Mike right next to me. The TV broadcast was unbelievably loud last night. I've never heard a building like that for this league.
Yeah, that's the if you have one complaint about a $1.6 billion palace, it's that unfortunately when it was designed, the press box is sealed. You can't open the windows. There is no way to do so. So unless they pipe in the noise, which they didn't last night, from outside into the press box, you don't get the full experience of the stadium. So I was listening to it on the radio last night on the way home. They were doing the replay on Sirius XM of their calls. The 92.9 didn't have that up yet. And it was amazing how loud it was.
Yeah, that was what struck me. And hearing back from people, because, I mean, I tweeted that out at, 3 o'clock in the morning last night as I'm watching the game back. And people coming back and talking about how loud it was. I believe Fox was trying to do an interview with Greg Berhalter on the field in pregame, and they couldn't hear each other. It was just too loud in there. The fans, and Doug, you've written about it. It was on the front page yesterday at the AJC. The fans of this team, this is a really special thing in Atlanta sports, and different fans of different sports will say different things, and that's fine. But what is happening with this team in this city, it's one of those special moments that you'll really always remember. I mean, I always remember where I was when I watched the Braves win the World Series in '95 and the run in '91. This is like that. This is really special.
Yeah, Steve Hummer, who is among the most gifted writers, sports writers in the United States, if not the world, had a cool little phrase in his main bar last night that Parkhurst slide, which led to that first goal, was the most important Sid Breams.
That's a great one. I hadn't seen that yet.
For the Braves. Yeah. It was just a fantastic little turn of phrase that he is so gifted at. But yeah, it's like those moments: the Sid Bream slide, the Parkhurst slide, the Escobar slide, third most important slide, because his slide, on his goal, he slid in to get that shot. It's those little things that you'll always remember. I've shared with y'all that we surprised our boys with tickets last night. We told them they were going to a watch party at Ponce City Market. They had no idea where Ponce City Market is. So even as they were walking past the stadium, they still thought they were going to Ponce City Market, until my wife, Annette, kind of sprung it on them that, well, if we're going to a watch party, we might as well go with 70,000 of our closest friends. And the boys just went ballistic. And she shared videos and photos with me. They were in the top row of the stadium in like section 300, because that's all I could get for tickets off of a website. And they just had a blast. They were talking about it all morning, sharing with me the videos. These are the things that create lifelong love and affection for a team. It's why we're all, I don't cover the Braves, and I don't know if I ever will, but I still have a soft spot in my heart for the Braves because I got to watch them win growing up.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about Atlanta, and I remember, and this is probably one of those things that I will always remember and always reference. After one of our Stoppage Time live shows at Fido, I was talking to Curtis Jenkins for a long time from Footy Mob, and we were trying to figure out how to explain it, because I think if you're not from here, if you haven't lived here for a long time, you might not really get what Atlanta is, and Atlanta's different, I think. And Curtis, I thought, put it really well. Like, Atlanta's made up of so many different people, and from all walks of life, people who, live completely different lives. But the thing about Atlanta that's different is everybody will come together for the greater good in these types of moments. Everybody will break bread together in these moments and want the whole city to benefit and want everybody to benefit. And that's been consistent through the city's history. That's why the city didn't have some of the issues in the 60s during the civil rights era that other cities did, because people were able to find common ground and come together. I mean, one of the most exciting things for me when we did the retrospective about the 68 Chiefs at the stadium a few months ago was finding a picture in the AJC archives of fans in Atlanta at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium carrying Kaiser Motong off the field after the Chiefs won the title in 68. This is 1968 Deep South, and you had a collection of white fans carrying a black African man off the field. That is a mind-blowing image to me, knowing what was happening in other cities around the region. And last night and this whole season, and honestly since day one with Atlanta United, you've seen that stadium is by far the most diverse place in Atlanta on a game day, and it is the best representation of the city that we all love so much. It's such a cool thing.
Speaking of Kaiser, I don't know if he's written it yet, but Stephen Goff got him on the phone. Stephen Goff of the Washington Post.
I saw that tweet.
Got Kaiser on the phone. I had been trying a long time ago to get him on the phone and just could never get anyone with Kaiser Chiefs to respond to my requests. And that's fine. I don't carry the weight of a Stephen Goff, who's one of the best soccer journalists in the world. So I really am looking forward to. I think he said he got like 6 minutes with him on the phone to reading what Kaiser had to say. So yeah, but you're exactly right. It's the inclusive atmosphere, and that's not to say the other teams aren't inclusive, but our experiences with Atlanta United, it's really interesting to watch, and frankly, it's not something that the team really did marketing for. No. They didn't market towards specific groups like specific racial groups or demographics. They just kind of marketed to soccer fans, and this is what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, Jarrett, this was something when we had skate on at stoppage time. We Ready, for example. That was not intended to be an anthem for this team. That wasn't something that somebody in the office came up with and said, yeah, let's pull this song from 2002 from Archie Eversole and make it the anthem for Atlanta United. It happened because the fans made it happen. They started chanting it. It became a thing. It grew, and now the club embraced it. This has been... And people want to throw plastic around and that type of nonsense. And look, if you're an American soccer fan and you're thinking Atlanta's bad for the sport, you don't really care about American soccer that much. You're missing the boat completely. But Jarrett, I mean, we haven't really had a chance to talk about it since last night. Just what was this whole thing, this season, this win, this championship? What was this whole thing like for you?
Yeah, for me, it was just emotion. Kim McCauley, SB Nation, tweeted it out, talking about the We Ready thing, the culture, about culture. Soccer culture doesn't have to be ripped out of Europe or even South America. Nope. Chanting We Ready and doing the flashlights, that is the culture here. You've made your own culture, and it's awesome. It's fun. It's unique. Every place is different about it. They do the You Are My Sunshine out in Portland during games, which I'll never not get over because
amazing.
You're singing a song written by the governor of Louisiana in the 1920s in Portland, Oregon, because why not? Everyone's got their little thing, and whatever works for you works for you. And I love that we had that. For me, last night was just, I kept thinking back to, and I was sitting next to Eric Quintana, I kept thinking back about it when we went and watched a bunch of academy kids play with a couple thousand people at Pace Academy. Atlanta didn't have a team on the field, like a professional team. We went and watched a bunch of kids with black shirts with SunTrust printed across the front of them go out and play academy games. And 2 years later, here you are. You've got an MLS Cup. You've put a star over the crest already. And I was talking, last night on the way home with Jeff Benedict, and Sam Stechkal wrote an article about it that, the rest of the league has to keep up or get out of the way. And I was talking with Benedict last night on the way home, and if they don't keep up, Atlanta's going to add more stars on the top of that crest at the rate they're going. Just if for no other reason, they got blood in the water now, and I think they're going to want more out of it. The highlights are just watching all of this, and I keep going back and watching the videos we took in the locker room of the players celebrating, the pictures, guys like Michael Parkhurst who finally get to climb the mountain and get a championship on his 5th try. Jeff Lorenowitz as well, guys who might be nearing the end of their career, getting that championship trophy above their head one more time or for the first time, and how important that is for them. Seeing pictures of my family out there. We've been taking my daughter to games since she was a month old, and she was born the day after Atlanta beat Chicago in Atlanta last year. And then, finding out this morning, I had to get up and go to the station. My wife texted me, she woke up, the kid woke up this morning and just my wife went into her and she just sat up in her bed and went, Atlanta. And she's just still jazzed about going to games and randomly does the Viking clap and just randomly screams out Atlanta and demands that we scream back United. Just stuff like that it's kind of taken over our lives. And, spending games in the press box and spending games last year in the stands. It's something that you pour yourself into because you're excited about it actually happening. And it happens. And then this happens. And it's like, there are moments I'm like walking through the press box, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say or think right now. It's just taking the moment because you just won MLS Cup and you did it in such an impressive fashion. And we kept talking about it. Thank God for Diego Chara for Portland's sake, because I don't know where they would have been last night without him, because Atlanta seemed just determined to, this is our cup to win and we're going to take it. And Diego Chara was, for a minute there, one of the only things keeping them from doing that earlier than they did.
Yeah, for all of the Atlanta sports coming up short in the big moments talk, Atlanta has hosted 4 times or going into last night, so now 5. 5 times where the team from Atlanta could lift the trophy for the league at home. Not a Super Bowl. Braves only had 1 time that happened, that they could win the World Series at home, and they did. They were 1 for 1. The Chiefs did it in 1968. That makes it 2 for 2. The Knights did it back in the old IHL at the Omni. That was 3 for 3. The only team that actually came up short, and this is why I didn't want to reference this yesterday, was the Silverbacks in 2013 to Giovanni Savarese and the Cosmos. That's the only time that an Atlanta team had a chance to win a championship at home and failed. So it was it just,
that was a fun game, though, to be fair.
It was, and it was a good performance from the Silverbacks. The Cosmos were a ridiculous team in that league, and Gio is a great manager, and Gio is going to be back to this. The Timbers are going to be back. They've got talent. But, Doug, I know you've got stuff to write and do, and you'll probably be writing the rest of the day. What else have we not said about this? What have we left out?
Well, I was listening to what Jared was saying, and part of me, people keep saying you've got to keep up with Atlanta United. To me, that's a little bit dangerous because that was the thought in the NASL, that you got to keep up with the Cosmos. And people spent too much money and they couldn't recoup it because they didn't quite know what they were doing. And it ended up hurting the league and the product. So, you and I have talked about before, while Atlanta United is the model franchise in Major League Soccer, I don't know that it's the franchise to follow if you're an expansion team or an existing team in Major League Soccer, simply because the conditions are so different than in every other team. I mean, there's only one other team that I could think of that should probably consider doing what Atlanta United's doing because they are similar, and that's New England. They have a similar size stadium. They have a huge metro population. And they have an owner with deep pockets who can lose money for a little bit and not have to sweat it a whole lot. And it's an area that cares about soccer. But if you're Cincinnati, if you're Nashville, even if you're Miami, if you come in and you try to spend like Atlanta United has spent, it's going to be a disaster, in my opinion.
I think Miami's a little different.
Red Bulls are doing. You got to do what Red Bulls are doing, in my opinion. Smarter spenders, or not smarter. More judicious with their spending.
Sure.
More judicious with their spending. They've been around longer, so they've been able to incorporate their academy more than Atlanta United has. But I think that's going to be a part of their plan down the road. But that's got to be the plan for the other teams in Major League Soccer, I think. Something more similar to Red Bulls than Atlanta United.
I think if you look at Atlanta United just as a team that spent a lot of money, then you're not paying close enough attention. They have. Look, Atlanta spent more money on transfer fees than anybody in the league, and they've
infrastructure and things because they had to.
Yeah, because they had to.
Nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now we're starting to see more teams spend on infrastructure. That's a good thing. New England is. They're building a great training facility. Others are building training facilities. That's a big, critical part of growing this league. But you're at a point now in MLS where owners are able to look at that side of it. It's not just, okay, we've got to keep the doors open for the next 3 years. It's, okay, we're going to keep the doors open for a good long time. Now, what can we do to make it better? And that's where I think owners have to make decisions. Are you going to spend your money on everything across the board, or are you going to spend your money on transfer fees? Are you going to spend your money on youth development? Are you going to spend your money on salary? Because Toronto spent a lot of money in a very different way than Atlanta. They went heavier on salary and less on transfer fee and potential. And they won a treble. Atlanta now kind of flipped it. They spent on the transfer fees to build this team. Salaries were, comfortable when you look at the league in terms of the top tier. And now they're in a situation to potentially recoup some of that with a Miguel Almiron transfer or anybody else, depending on what rumors come up and what offers come up. I think you can look at Atlanta United in a lot of different ways to learn things from it. What I hope to continue to see, and we saw it last year after Atlanta's first season of success, I hope to see teams push the envelope in their own way. Whether that is promoting more youth a la Red Bulls and developing a style that you can teach and develop over time. Whether it's, Dallas, where you're just spending a lot of money on the youth side. And now Paul Tenorio is tweeting out that he's hearing from multiple people Dallas is going to go very young next year. They're going to move a lot of pieces around, and they're going to play their kids. They're in a position kind of rebuilding to where they can do that. You're going to see teams do it in different ways. Houston, doesn't spend much money, but they went out and got some players out of Central America that are less expensive. And Albert Ellis is an electric player. He's a great player in this league. Romel Kyoto, great player in this league. There's different ways to do it. But I go back to what Arthur Blank said at the All-Star game. I want to see more owners and more clubs show that commitment and that ambition. And it's not always straight up financial. I think too often we've seen too many clubs in this league not be committed to growing the game in their market, to doing the things that Atlanta's done really well. And I hope that changes. And I hope that people do look at this as an opportunity to go forward and learn from it. Because I think there are lessons, no matter what situation you're in financially as a club in this league, that you can learn from what Atlanta United's done well.
That's true. And Atlanta United learned lessons from Seattle.
Absolutely.
Blank has talked about the expansion teams that come in and started talking to Atlanta United, trying to get those best practices. But Atlanta United is it was just a unique cauldron, and everything happened
100%.
at the right time, at the same time. It's hard to replicate, but other teams are going to have success. Atlanta United isn't going to win every MLS Cup from now until Darren Eales leaves or Arthur Blank decides to sell the team or whatever. It's impossible to do. But they are going to be consistent winners and contenders because of the work that they were able to do with their extra time as an expansion franchise. I mean, Darren Eales told me about that again last night, credited Arthur Blank with hiring a president early enough that they could take advantage of the 2-year ramp up that they had. Mm-hmm. Other teams typically have gotten just 1 year, and Atlanta United made the most use of that time.
They did. And it all paid off last night. It felt
you would
like
think that's something the league would learn, is give the teams 2 years.
You'd think that the ownership groups would learn that. I mean, Nashville is doing it in their own way. Cincinnati's done that in their own way, operating USL teams, but that can be difficult too because that pulls you in different directions when you're leading up to it. We'll see how Cincinnati does. I think Cincinnati will be better positioned than any other team moving up because of the ownership group, because of that fan base, because of the moves they made in the summer. I mean, getting Fernando Adi and Fatai Alashe and then signing guys coming into the season that they knew, like a Forrest Lasso, would have a strong potential for moving up. I think they're going to be better positioned to do that than others, but Nashville's a year away now. Miami's a year away. They can start making moves now in this upcoming transfer window to prepare for their first season. I hope they take advantage. I hope they don't wait until the last minute. For all of the kudos for LAFC and what they did, and they had a good first year, they didn't do a lot in the ramp-up. And I think it ended up hurting them because they just did not have the depth to truly get to where I think people wanted them to be in year one. And we'll see what they do going into year two. I think Atlanta was better positioned to do what they did in year two than LAFC is going into their second year.
Yeah, I mean, LAFC, I think, people could argue about the strength of the conferences, but I do think the Eastern Conference was much deeper and stronger than the Western Conference.
You agree?
LAFC, particularly if they lose Walker Zimmerman, which could happen in either the trade window or the transfer window because his contract is up and there's reportedly interest in Mexico.
Reportedly with his former manager, Oscar Pareja in Tijuana.
I don't know who in the world's going to play defense for them because they got rid of Simone. They're about to trade, perhaps trade Moutinho. They won't have Zimmerman. They're going to have to totally rebuild the defense, and that's just not a thing to do. They've lost their assistant coach to Vancouver. They're facing an important offseason. I mean, you can have all that attacking talent that you want. Feldhaber is gone, for example.
Right, he's out of contract.
Right. But you got to be able to stop people, which is the lesson Atlanta United finally learned and applied in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was an incredible defensive performance from Atlanta United in the postseason. Doug, man, thanks for the time this morning. We appreciate it. I know you probably have, 73 more articles to write today?
No, actually, we're going to take it slow a little bit today because we filed so much stuff last night.
Okay.
I did just file the Martino story. I'm about to do the player ratings. And then it's just going to kind of be wait and see if anything happens in the trade window today. I will be I believe I'm going to be at the parade tomorrow to cover that along with a team of AJC people. And I got to go out and buy as many papers as I can today because I think we want to frame them for our boys and my brother-in-law, who's a huge Atlanta United supporter and fan of the sport. And, hey, I just, again, Jarrett and Jason and John and everybody involved with y'all show how much fun I've had this year coming on and talking soccer with y'all, how much I appreciate how much you know about the team, how much I respect that y'all are there every day. People, the TV stations aren't there every day. I'll just say that, okay? When they show up, they try to act like they have been there forever, but they're not. They're not there every game, every day. Some of them are for a good bit of the stuff, but not all the time. Y'all are. I have been. So I just have a tremendous amount of respect for y'all, and I hope that your listeners, as they continue to grow, appreciate y'all as much as I do.
Thanks, Doug. And thanks for all you do, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
we'll
Doug.
See you. We'll see you at a parade tomorrow, eh?
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
Bye, Doug. Doug Robertson, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Make sure you're following him, Doug Robertson, AJC, on Twitter, Atlanta United News Now. No announced trades yet that I have seen. We do have to talk about a tweet that was sent out from soccer columnist ESPN Jeffrey Carlisle. Jeffrey Carlisle on Twitter. Jeff Carlisle, you know him. You read his stuff. He says he is hearing there was some kind of disciplinary issue with Andrew Carleton, and that's why he wasn't at the match last night. Not sure if there were any trades in the works there. I know nothing. I honestly did not even realize that he wasn't there or involved in anything until probably as I was leaving the stadium last night. It was really late. I don't know. But all I know at this point is we've seen this club this season take discipline very seriously. And they suspended Ezequiel Barco for a number of matches due to indiscipline off the field. And I have no idea what the disciplinary issue that Jeffrey Carlisle is referencing about Andrew Carleton. I have no idea what that is. No clue. But the fact
the team is pretty tight-lipped about these things.
Yeah, absolutely, as they should be. And you're talking about a teenager. I mean, you're talking about a teenager. You don't know what happened or what was involved in it. So, I haven't seen anything rumored about it. So, I don't know. But the team's going to take this very seriously, and it's for the players' benefit in the long run of their career. You have to understand the moments. You have to understand what it means to be a professional. And whatever happened, it sounds like, if this is true from Jeff Carlisle, it sounds like something was a problem. And hopefully that does not continue. I would be rather shocked if there was a trade that happened because of it. This was the same stuff that popped up about Barco was, he's in trouble. They suspended him. Oh, they're going to sell him tomorrow. No. That was never a possibility. So I'd be pretty surprised if that was to be the case, and there is no one saying that it is. I think it would have a lot more to do with pipeline potential playing time, other moves, than an isolated discipline issue, because I have never heard of any other discipline issue with Carleton before. So, he wasn't on the field. I didn't see him. He wasn't there. I would assume that is roughly confirmed at this point. But Jeff Carlisle's tweet, 11:18, is saying that he was hearing there's some kind of disciplinary issue with Andrew Carleton. So we'll see if anything else comes out of that. But as Jarrett said, the team stays tight-lipped about these things, as they should, when you're dealing with young professionals who are still growing up, to be perfectly honest. And mistakes are made. I made mistakes as a kid. I'm sure you guys did. Everybody did. That's part of growing up. So we'll see what happens. But that's the tweet out there. We were, things had been rumored and whispered and stuff, and this is out from Jeff Carlisle at ESPN now. So let's get into. We talked about rumors with Doug. Let's recap real quick that so far. Orlando is linked to two different players, Tesho Akindele from Dallas and Joao Moutinho of LAFC. The only player we know at this point that would be on the move, if deals are to be believed, is Mohamed El Munir, left back, headed to LAFC. Zach McMath is rumored to be headed to Vancouver from Colorado. Don't know what would be in return for that.
Yeah, we got numbers on that, it looks like.
Okay, what do we have, Jarrett?
Let me pull it back up. One moment. Jeff Carlisle saying that would be Nicholas Mazzuita and $100,000 in TAM. Mazzuita and $100,000 TAM.
I like Mosquito a lot. That does change my perception on it a little bit. Mosquito is a player that I've expected more out of in Vancouver, and he just hasn't really been given the opportunity based off their style of play. Now, I don't know if that's going to change in Colorado, to be perfectly honest, but that's a good return. But still, then if that's the case, what happens at goalkeeper for Colorado next year? There's no confirmation on Tim Howard's future yet. So he could be back. He might not be back. I don't know. But you held on to Zach McMath for this long. It feels like you should either be playing him or getting more. As much as I like Mosqueda, I don't know if that's a smart move.
Yeah. I'm just wouldn't you know we'd have a head scratcher coming out of the blocks, and it ends up being Zach McMath in Colorado.
Well, nothing's done yet, so let's see what happens here. Another rumor that's out there, and this has went back and forth. It started up last night. Jason Kreis to the LA Galaxy. At first, the rumor was that he would be heading out there as the manager, and now it's sounding more like he would be heading out as the assistant to Dominic Kinnear. And we had talked about it previously that Dominic Kinnear looks to be a true contender for getting the full-time gig with the Galaxy. He was the interim finishing up the season. Kreis as an assistant would be very intriguing because Jason Kreis has not been an assistant coach. Don't know how that's going to work.
Is this a way possibly to, I mean, from Jason's point of view, could it be some way to ease him back into the consciousness of MLS to prepare him for that next opportunity as a head coach down the line?
I mean, yeah, because I mean, I've thought this about Jason Kreis before. I thought maybe he needed to either go to USL or do something to rebuild his career a little bit. He's had a couple of bad stops in New York and Orlando. But sure, I mean, that's what it is. If he goes to be an assistant, that's why. But this is not your typical trajectory. This is not somebody who came up as an assistant and then became a manager and, okay, now he's going to go back to being an assistant. Jason Kreis has literally never been an assistant coach. He retired as a player and became the manager of Real Salt Lake, period. That's it. So that's not an easy transition. And we know Jason Kreis is a guy who's wanted to be in charge and control everything. Not as an assistant. So that's a big transition. And we'll see if he's ready for that, and we'll see if it works. Dominic Kinnear's a big personality. I don't think he's going to have a problem with Jason Kreis having a big personality. But this is a very un-Galaxy-like move. The Galaxy typically go big, bold headlines, Zlatan. Going for Dominic Kinnear, who has won titles in this league, but it's been quite a while since he did that. And Jason Kreis, who won a title in this league a long time ago and has had 2 bad stops since. And Kinnear's had his bad stops after Houston. That doesn't feel like a LA Galaxy move. I'm not saying it's the wrong move, but it feels a little different. And I've wondered if Kinnear, if the game had maybe passed him by a little bit in this league. He did well at the end with the Galaxy, but I don't know if that was enough to give him the full-time gig. We'll see. Dennis DeClose is taking over in L.A., making these soccer decisions. We'll see if anything changes or if this was part of the deal. He was going to come in, and these are the moves he was going to make. I'm intrigued because, as we talked about with Doug, John, I don't think LAFC is necessarily in a great situation to take over the city next year either. I think they've got a lot of questions. So
yes,
the battle for Los Angeles will continue to rage on.
Well, and you know how in other sports when you have a coach who is of a certain personality and then you bring in the coach after the dismissal that's 180 degrees away from that, I'm wondering if that's this approach, and that's why it feels a little different. Because, if you have the disciplinarian doesn't work, you bring in a player's coach. So for me, I'm looking at this 180 as that kind of a 180. So
yeah, no, I got you. But this is bigger than that. This is not because soccer's different to me in this regard in terms of clubs have identities in the way they play. I think that's a much more malleable thing in football or basketball to a little bit lesser extent. I think basketball is closer to soccer in this regard. I mean, baseball doesn't really have this type of thing as much. But identity is a big part of this. And this is against the LA Galaxy's identity. Because when you think of LA Galaxy, you think of David Beckham, you think of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you think of Robbie Keane, you think of glitz, glamour, big names, superstars, big time. You don't think of a retread. And you don't think of a retread manager and a retread assistant coach. And it's beyond disciplinary and players coach. It's more to, is this the LA Galaxy? Or is the LA Galaxy becoming something else? What is this? And this is something, Jarrett, we've talked about for 3 years now, about the LA Galaxy and what they're going to do with LAFC coming to town. I still don't think they've figured it out.
It feels more dangerous than anything that they haven't seemed to figure out what they want to be. Like, if you were going to commit to, we're just going to keep being the Galaxy of old, that's okay. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's go for it, though. I mean, pick something and go for it, because right now you haven't done that. And it just feels weird. Like, if you want to bring on Christ as an assistant, and maybe that's what Christ needs for him, is to say, I don't need to be, I don't want to be a head coach right now. I just need a bit of a break, but I still want to be involved in the game, and let me be an assistant. Maybe that's the right move for him. I don't know. But at the end of the day, yeah, the Galaxy just kind of seem to be, I don't know. I don't want to say lost, but
Are they there? Are they just there?
They're kind of just there right now. And 2019 is going to be a big year for them. It's going to be a big year for LAFC to take a step towards trying to push them even further out of the spotlight. Maybe LAFC can even win a game in that rivalry without blowing a late lead, without, some crazy stuff happening too.
Yeah, there's that. One of the maybe underrated things that we learned in the last couple of days is we found ATL trains. We found ATL trains. We'd worried a little bit about our buddy Trains with a Z. Chewy Thin Plot on Twitter, I guess pulled the mask off. Went completely unmasking. I mean, like the Black Scorpion type of deal.
What was it? The American Outlaws with Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA.
Something like that.
The James Boys. Boys.
Yeah. He totally. Chewy just tweeted out, "Morning in the City of Champions. Just wanted to apologize for grating on the nerves of you and the listeners with my hashtag heel trains and hashtag MLS narrative takes. Happy day. Hope to see y'all at the parade." Definitely happy day, and no grating of nerves at all.
No.
You need different voices in all this, and that's what's been so great about it. Again, that's Atlanta. That's what it is. It's one. I'm glad that Trains is okay, because I was a little worried. I was a little worried when we hadn't heard from Trains in a while, and I had my suspicions, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, Chewy, you're part of the 17s. You're part of the Atlanta United Nation, and a big part of that. So keep doing what you do. Hashtag heel trains, hashtag MLS narrative for sure, because some of your MLS narrative stuff was hilarious and made me laugh on a regular basis.
My favorite one is apparently salty so far this morning has been, first off, shout out to the Portland supporters. Every Portland supporter I ran into was amazing. It's a great fan base. And they're salty this morning, and I would be too. I don't blame you a bit.
I've not seen the saltiness.
Just man, we're going to, congratulations. We're going to be salty right now. Man, we're done with you, Atlanta. We'll see you next year. I hope you hire Alan Pardew.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh. And that's another, okay, let's go back to identity and that type of stuff. Well, now Atlanta United doesn't have a manager. Tata Martino, his time in Atlanta is done. He'll be with us at a parade, don't worry. But in charge of this team, he is moving on to another job. So now it becomes manager watch. And who is going to be that guy? I think the things about Alan Pardew, one, I mean, let's be real here. Alan Pardew is not Dominic Kinnear. Alan Pardew is not other managers around the league that have been, retreads. Alan Pardew would be a manager with a resume coming into this league that there have been very few managers with that type of resume. That's a fact. Is he the right guy for this job? Not even because you don't know. Alan Pardew has done things as a manager that very few managers in this league have done, flat out.
Not in dispute.
So then don't give me that but aspect to it. That's the problem here. Alan Pardew, if he was hired 3 years ago, would have blown everybody's mind in this league about, wow, how did this happen? Why is this happening? Why is he coming here? The same things that were said about Tata Martino when he decided to come here. The rumors around Alan Pardew, this is where I was trying to go, is more about somebody saw him and asked him about why he was here, and he didn't deny that he was here because of interest in the job. I mean, that is as flimsy of a link as you can possibly find. Like, come on. Let's slow the roll here. Again, just like we talked about with the Greg Garza rumors that are out there, you do have to take sourcing into account, and you do have to take the message into account. I mean, I've read the tweet about Pardew, and I've seen it in different languages. He didn't say he was here to talk to the team. He didn't say he was being hired. He said, or he didn't say that he wasn't here because of that. I mean, come on. I think it's a reach. I don't think he's the best option that has been linked to this team. Guillermo Barros Schelotto has kind of an important game that kicks off at 2 o'clock Eastern. You can watch it on Telemundo from Spain. Boca Juniors and River Plate finally in the second leg of the Copa Libertadores final. That will happen this afternoon. I believe there are a couple more Superliga matches for Boca Juniors before Guillermo Barros Schelotto would be in a break. The Argentine Superliga takes a summer break in Argentina this time of year, and he said he's done at the end of this December. Generally, managers sign kind of those half-year type of deals or 18-month deals, and things happen in that break. So Schelotto said he's not coming back. He's been linked many times to the opening in Atlanta. That is now truly open. There were also heavy rumors about Jorge Sampaoli and discussions going there. Again, another manager that a lot of people got really bent out of shape about when his name was mentioned, and 3 years ago you would have freaked out. And I think he would be a great choice. I really do. I think as a club manager, he's a great fit. I think the Argentine national team, when he took it over, was an awful fit for him in the style of soccer he wanted to play. And I think he really struggled to deal with the soap opera aspect of it, because that's what it was. So he's another one. Gabriel Milito is a very interesting one that has popped up here recently. There are plenty of other managers in Argentina that would be very intriguing moves. And there are guys who are out of work right now that would be very intriguing moves. Did anybody think before the rumors hit that Tata Martino would be here in Atlanta? Nobody considered it. So, although now I think Atlanta United has
we were thinking about Gio Savarese coming here.
We were hoping for Giovanni Savarese.
Yeah,
and he wasn't even really being mentioned. Yeah, we were hoping he was a target. It was a lot of talk about Jason Kreis, Adrian Heath, Siggy Schmid. Those were the names that kept bouncing around. So nobody expected Tata Martino. It came up. Now, Atlanta's in a different place. People are following Atlanta United and their moves and things very closely now. So I think you're going to hear about it ahead of time, and we're seeing lots of these different rumors now, but the sky's the limit for what they do, and it doesn't have to be a big name. As Darren told us on Stoppage Time Live, it has to be somebody who fits this identity. And, this is where LA Galaxy, I don't know what that identity is anymore. I think Atlanta will hire somebody who fits the identity of what Atlanta United is at this point. It's a special gig, and it's by far the biggest opportunity in this league if you're a manager looking to come here, John.
No doubt. And with the global identity that it has, and I mean, you turn a corner yesterday and you turn a corner this morning and you see what has happened with 73,000 of your closest friends and all of these different things. And I think that a lot of folks are going to want to be a part of a special environment. And you're going to see names out there that you might not normally have thought of. And it's going to take a lot of research to see what folks are looking at. But because of what has happened over the last 2 years and a calendar since, I think that it's going to be, it's in a way, it's like opening that Christmas present. You wonder what it's going to be, but I think that you're going to have a lot of folks attached to it. And I think from our perspective, it's going to be a fun thing, but it's getting that higher right and continuing the momentum that you've already built.
100%. It's a big move, and it's the biggest move that has happened for Atlanta United probably since hiring Tata Martino, to be honest. I mean, player moves are important, and bringing Ezequiel Barco in was a big move and a big, bold statement. But this is one with a lot of risk in it because it's your manager. It's going to be a tough decision, and there are a lot of different opportunities here and a lot of different ways you can go. I think you want to do it as quickly as possible, but you have to get it right. And that's the most important thing here. And this front office has done an amazing job in making the correct decisions with players, with staff, with everything. So you would have to trust them to continue to do that. I don't think they're going to be hurting for candidates, Jarrett.
No, I think folks will be lined up out the door, and not just for Atlanta. We've seen it now with other clubs. You've seen it out in Vancouver, where they're following that same path of we're going to get a guy who just won a championship at another level, even if it's NASL. It doesn't mean someone can't coach, clearly, because Giovanni Savarese just took a Portland team and rebuilt it and came within 90 minutes of winning MLS Cup in his first year. You're seeing it in San Jose. I mean, MLS is just a different world for managers now, so it's going to be interesting to see how the search goes. I think because of how short of a schedule Atlanta has to work with, everything's going to move quickly. Mitch Northam, Pro Soccer USA, who covers Atlanta United, was tweeting out that the roster decisions will be out by 2:30 today, it sounds like. So we'll get a lot of answers soon. As far as the trade window goes, we'll get some answers there as well. MLS is just it's a brutal league when it comes to getting these decisions through quickly. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot there's probably going to be a lot of whirlwind when it comes to managers for Atlanta United. Just keep it between the yellow lines a bit when you're taking in all the rumors.
Yeah, definitely that. It's going to be hectic. We will kind of run through that off-season schedule and what it looks like here in just a minute. Couple things to update you on if you have not heard or you've missed things as they've developed. There will be a parade tomorrow in downtown Atlanta. You can watch it live on Fox Sports Southeast, and Kevin Egan, Dan Gargan, Jillian Sakovitz will be talking you through that, which is awesome. 92.9 The Game will have live coverage. This is nuts. Mike and myself and Jimmy and Minna will be in the parade. We'll be part of the parade. I never thought I would ever say that in my life, that I would be part of a parade, and we're going to be part of the parade. And we'll be broadcasting somehow. Eric Davis, our engineer, I don't know what he is doing to have us on the air in a parade, but Eric's a wizard, so I'm just going to trust it and believe that it happens. So that's all going down. I'm sure local TV will have coverage as well. We know, all the usual suspects will be down there as well. Doug and Felipe and Joe Patrick and all of our friends who cover this team on a regular basis. It's an epic celebration for this team and everything that has happened since April 16th, 2014, and honestly way before that. So that's tomorrow. Today is the trade window that is open until 1 o'clock. Moves can get announced afterwards. We see this with every trade window or trade deadline. Things can actually be publicized after, but the deal has to be finalized by 1 o'clock. And after that, then your rosters are locked until after some different drafts and different things. Welcome to MLS. If you're new, this is going to get complicated because it's MLS and this is what we do. I'm pulling up the calendar now, so you know kind of what's upcoming. So right now,
there are flowcharts needed, and they are very complex. If you heard this is your first try with this, the learning curve. The learning curve is like, we're talking like Dark Souls or Bloodborne level. If you play games like, if this was a game, you would die repeatedly trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
This is a harsh learning curve, and it's very unforgiving.
Absolutely. So, look, we will not have a show live in the morning tomorrow because I'll be getting ready for a parade. I guess that's a good excuse. And then we'll do a combined soccer down here over there late afternoon, early evening show. So stay tuned on that, and we'll update you on where everything stands going into that, because there will be stuff to update for sure. Again, half-day trade window, it runs till 1 o'clock today. This is the 4-hour window where clubs may sign and trade players, so there could be lots of different moves. Re-entry draft eligible players can be moved here. Noon is when, and that's just passed, when Atlanta and Portland had to exercise options. So clubs that compete in MLS Cup must notify the league office in writing of players whose options they are exercising and or players who are receiving bona fide offers. So that's not going to come out at noon. That has to be sent to the league office at noon. We saw teams wait days to announce this. You're not going to have that luxury here if you're Atlanta and Portland. You're going to have to announce it pretty quick. So the only player that was mentioned last night in any official capacity that we knew was on an option was Michael Parkhurst. He mentioned that in post-match, right, Jarrett?
I'm not sure. MLS kind of turns post-game into a choose-your-own-adventure novel, but the novel is on fire.
Yes.
So I don't know. I was trying not to get hit with champagne half the time.
That's
and
fair.
Heineken.
It was mentioned last night that Michael Parkhurst said he was on an option going into next year, and he didn't know what was going to happen. So, yeah, it does. I mean, you're talking about a lot of 2-year deals when this club was launched. 2-year deals with an option to continue. So there will be moves in that regard for Atlanta United to have to make decisions on. Now, if you make an offer to a player who is on an option or a player who is out of contract, you can retain their rights and you can continue to negotiate, and that will happen. But that was noon. That deadline is passed. 1 o'clock is when the blackout period starts. That is through the conclusion of the expansion draft. The expansion draft is Tuesday, 2 o'clock. You can watch it in the MLS app. You can watch it on MLSsoccer.com. Cincinnati's picking 5 players that are eligible to be picked. This gets overblown every time about how big a deal it's going to be. We haven't really seen it be that massive of a deal. We've seen lots of trades come out of it, and that's something that it wouldn't surprise me here. Atlanta United could lose a player in the expansion draft. You can only lose one. It's possible, just because of the depth that Atlanta has. It's possible that they could make a deal with Cincinnati not to lose a player, as they did with LAFC last year. So stay tuned to that Tuesday afternoon. Free agency starts Tuesday at 3 o'clock after the expansion draft. There are players that have to fit very difficult requirements to be free agents in this league. 8 years of service is one of the biggest ones. 28 years old, 8 years of service in the league. I don't have a list currently, and we probably won't see it until we know who's out of contract, who was an option declined player across the board, and who fits that list. That stuff will all start to come out as the day goes on today. Atlanta has been active in free agency before. Jeff Larinowitz was a big-time free agent signing for this team. So be on the lookout there. The waiver draft is Wednesday at 4 o'clock. These are players who have been waived by clubs and do not meet the minimum years of service requirement for the reentry draft or free agency. Cincinnati will have last pick. It's conducted in reverse order of the 2018 season finish, taking into account postseason performance. Reentry draft is Friday. As we get closer to those, we'll break down the differences in them. A lot of it has to do with the amount of years the players played in the league. There's certain thresholds, so you become a free agent if you've been in the league the longest. You go into the reentry draft. Next, you go into the waiver draft for young guys who are out of contract. So there will be a process here. You'll start to get announcements about the transfer window opening up in January. Atlanta United has announced big moves in December before, and I wouldn't expect that to be any different here. So this is going to be a busy week in MLS, and I think a potentially busy week for Atlanta United. Outside of the rumors about players in the transfer window, outside of the coaching rumors, you could see moves, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Jared is waiting to see.
I am. I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting to see what happens with all this. I mean, it's been a weird morning. You know, now you have the Carlton rumors really just they're
going to spin like crazy because the same thing happened with Barco.
They are in full bore now. And here's the look. I mean, here's the thing about it. We won't know all the details about what happened at this point.
Nope.
But the team's going to handle the discipline internally, and we're going to have to wait till we hear from the team about something. And it might be a vague statement. And yeah, I get it. That's frustrating sometimes. I know a lot of people were really frustrated with the lack of statements that came out from the Barco thing, but that's the way this team operates with those statements. And, you just got to make peace with that. You're not going to keep, poking the bear and, get the answer you want. Probably it happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you handle a professional club, folks. I mean, you don't have to talk about every single decision like this that is internal business. You're not going to go into detail about what happened that you did not care for. So we don't know if this is not a situation where you don't have a game. You're not going to leave him out of an 18 and have to mention it. So, hopefully this is a minor transgression and it's a learning opportunity and everything moves on going forward. But, let's talk bigger picture just about the roster and how things are going to look. This is a very interesting offseason for the homegrown players with Atlanta United because you're going to have a new manager come in and have a completely fresh perspective on these players. Tata Martino has watched these guys since he came here in late 2016. He watched them with the academy, helped in the decision-making process or made the decision to bring them into the first team, sign them to a homegrown deal. Now we see what happens with Patrick Okonkwo, with Lagos Kunga, with Chris Goslin, with George Bello, with Andrew Carlton. We see, are they going to make it to the first team? Is there still an opportunity for them to develop with the second team? Or is it just not going to happen here for them? And we don't know. Because this is a club that does have a lot of ambition. I think Atlanta is well prepared to be able to do what Toronto struggled with early on last season and compete on two fronts. I think Atlanta's better prepared to do that than any MLS team we've ever seen in this situation. But the new manager will have a completely different viewpoint on these players because there's no past history. He's going to judge them for where they are right now. And we don't know what that's going to be yet, Jared.
No, we don't. Look, this roster was always going to look different this year. Like you said, a lot of 2-year deals on there with options, but you've got the homegrowns coming in. You've got the academy growing. There's always going to be questions, and I think it's beyond just, the starting 11 is going to look different next year. So is the 18. So is the 25 to 30 guys on that roster. It's going to look different. It's just the nature of it. And it's just the nature of sport. I mean, especially soccer, when you have a worldwide marketplace, it's not just we can go find players from all over the world. Well, our players can also go all over the world. That's an option too. So it's going to look different. It's going to be a little chaotic, and you are completely forgiven, and it's totally understandable if everyone kind of gets caught up in their feelings about this, honestly, because you just had something amazing happen if you're Atlanta, if you're a fan. And this team will never be the same as it was last night when they lifted that trophy. They're not going to bring everybody back. Things are going to be different. So hang on to that and enjoy it. Just know that it's going to change, but you'll still always have that team in the back of your mind. And it is as great as it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's the life of a team, and I think with soccer, and especially where it is in this country, and just the worldwide market, and how that worldwide market is now embracing MLS, it can be fleeting in some ways. But we talk about it all the time when we reminisce about our favorite teams. I mean, you remember guys who were with the '91 Braves, but didn't make it until '95. I mean, you remember guys who were there in '95 for a year or two and then moved on. It happens. It doesn't diminish anything. It doesn't change anything. It's just part of the process. And, I was a guy last night that I was really happy to see get on the field in that moment was Chris McCann. A guy who, came to a team, made the decision to come to a team in the summer of 2016 that didn't have a manager. And a guy who has played so many different positions for this team in his 2 years here, and a guy who took a lot of criticism at different times. But the middle of this season, when you lost Greg Garza to injury and then you lost Mikey Ambrose to injury, Chris McCann did a big-time job for you at left back and kept this team afloat in some really difficult times. Great to see him get that opportunity to be on the field at the end last night. And he's a guy that I don't think is going to be back on the same contract next year if he's back. I think it's going to be a different situation if he returns. Don't know if he will, but I'm glad he had that moment last night. He absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, he did. It's man, I've taken heat because I defended Chris McCann a fair amount. Chris McCann had some rough games near the end. And that happens, but I was so impressed with the way he was able to be, at times your third or fourth option off the bench for that position. He got the job done when you needed him to. And there was a two-way street for me last night because you got a guy like Greg Garza who has just leaned all the way into Atlanta and embraced Atlanta. Like the way you would love to see from your players, who couldn't stay on the field, had his shoulder go out on him, had to have the surgery in the middle of the season, fights like hell to come back is, an important piece in this playoff run, trying to rebuild what could be a U.S. national team caliber career at left back, let's be honest. And he gets a chance to walk off that field to thunderous applause. And at the same time, you get Chris McCann with what might be his final, taking of the stage. So for me, it was a two-way street there where I thought, both of them, you got one guy being able to enjoy that applause for, the contributions he made and fighting back from injury, and the other guy coming on to be on the field during the last moments after everything he did and put himself through.
We have an update on the parade. Mike Conti tweeted out a few minutes ago. He now knows of at least 2 broadcast TV stations in Atlanta that plan to carry live coverage of the entire Atlanta United parade tomorrow, along with Fox Sports Southeast. This is crazy. Just try to flash back to 2014 or before that. Just try to flash back to pre-Atlanta United days. And if somebody had told you that Atlanta United's first championship would get this, 73,000 people at Mercedes-Benz last night, the largest crowd we've ever seen for an MLS game, period, in a standalone game, biggest MLS Cup crowd, loudest crowd I've ever heard. All that, and the championship then results in a parade that will be all over the city in terms of coverage tomorrow. You can officially let it go about Atlanta being a bad sports town or Atlanta not being a soccer town or this not mattering. You can let all that go at this point. And the people who are still trying to say those things, just hit them with a bless your heart and move on. Don't even waste your time engaging. I've seen a few, not many, but a few people that I expected a little bit better out of, to be perfectly honest. And hey, it's just sad. It's just sad on their part that they look this way about it. This is a really amazing moment for the city, not even for soccer people in the city, for the city to have this, because you're going to have such a cool day tomorrow in downtown Atlanta because of this. I don't know what the weather is going to be. I don't care. It could be 35 degrees and raining. It's going to be a joyous, momentous occasion. And I mean, I think back, and
it's
I don't know.
It's good that you say that, because I think it's supposed to be cold and raining.
Yeah, well, that's all good.
The high of 41, 78% chance of rain.
That's fine. It'll feel amazing. I think back to, I mean, I was at the parade when the Braves won the World Series. I drove back over from Athens. I was freshman at UGA at that time. And yeah, I drove over for it. I rode MARTA in. I was there for the parade. It was a blast. But I remember looking at what happened with the Chicago Bulls and the Bulls winning titles and their celebrations. I don't remember the name of the park, but WGN used to always show this. And they would have the parade and they'd have their rally at the park. And that was where you'd get, the guys saying crazy stuff or talking about three-peats or whatever. It sounds like, and I don't know all of the details just yet, but the parade's going to end at the Home Depot backyard, which is going to be a pretty cool place to all come together. So hopefully, get a chance to see a lot of people who have followed this team from day one, who have listened to us, who listen to all the other podcasts, listen to us on 989 The Game. Hopefully everybody gets a chance to celebrate in this tomorrow, because it's going to be special. And while we can talk about all the stuff that is going to happen, I mean, you're planning a parade and you're also deciding which options you're going to pick up. That's a difficult dual existence right now for Atlanta United, but it doesn't diminish anything about this beautiful celebration that we're going to see tomorrow.
No, it doesn't. And hey, even if you never came to a game and you might have turned on the game for the first time last night, come on out. Hey, it ain't a better time to jump on the wagon.
Join us. And that's something that I want soccer people to completely drop that mentality of. When the Braves had their parade, and that is the only other touchstone that we have for this. That's it. They weren't checking your baseball credentials at the door. They didn't say, well, do you know what the slugging percentage of the 3, 4, and 5 hitters for this team? Nobody asked anything like that. Nobody cared. It was a celebration of Atlanta and this city. That's what this is. If people are motivated to buy a jersey, to get on board, to buy tickets next year, to come see their first soccer game in person next year, please do so. And come join us and listen to all of the coverage in the city for it. Read all about it and have fun with it. Join us. There is no credential check-in at the door for this thing tomorrow at all.
John Nason, concerning Chris McCann, says, you know that McCann got that toughness for getting the job done during the loan spell at Coventry City. Getting sent to Coventry is never an easy task.
Mason. It's definitely not. I remember following that. Coventry was having some serious problems around that time.
Yeah, they were.
So,
and aside from that, I believe McCann's from Dublin. And if you've ever stood next to him, he's kind of wiry in the way he's built. He's taller than you might expect. Chris McCann just looks like somebody he looks like the kind of person that if you got into an altercation is going to say, you don't want to fight. I don't want to fight you. And what he means by that is you don't want to get involved in this with this particular Irishman. Chris McCann's got toughness on lockdown. I'm pretty confident.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing about McCann that I don't think got enough play as the year went on, how many guys, when you'd have a conversation with players in this team and talk about You know, some of the funniest players on the team or the guys who were always joking and playing pranks. It was Chris McCann. You know, that's an
He's the dad joke
important
king.
part
It's
of the
amazing.
team. Yes. That's an important part of the day-to-day of a team like this. And Chris McCann was a great teammate with this group and filled a very important role with this team. Did he live up to a contract number? Probably not for his production. And you know what? That's okay because it really didn't affect anything, did it?
No, it didn't. And if nothing else, I mean, he did more than what you could have. A lot of people expected, honestly. It was of the guys you bring in that are, you know, you think about like the guys you bring in ahead of Tata coming in. Chris McCann probably isn't a guy you think about with this roster, but the same way you had Kenwin and it just didn't work. But Chris McCann found a way to make it work and seemed to be that kind of guy when he was here that Tata asked him to do something, he did it. You know, he's a veteran who took a chance to come here, and you know, he did what he was asked. And man, I can't ask for any more than that.
No, not at all. Okay, I believe there is some kind of signing event that Miguel Almiron is doing this morning, and
Yes.
Jay Riddle is reporting live from.
Yeah, seems to be some signing event up in Alpharetta, I guess.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
know. I don't go to Alpharetta on purpose.
Wow, slandering Alpharetta.
No, it's a long way. I live on the west side, and I like where I'm at. I'm good.
Ivy's good with it too.
Yeah.
Five Stripe Peacocks asks how I have a voice today. I don't know. I'm also like low gearing it as much as I can right now too. So I have a feeling that my voice will be gone tomorrow. I think it will just completely fade into the sunset tomorrow, and I will be writing messages to people for the rest of the day.
I don't know how. I think between the three of us, and I don't think John's with us anymore. I think between the three of us, we got 9 hours of sleep, maybe. So I don't know.
Sure, maybe. And
yeah, mainland
John's got high school playoffs to prepare for. What do we have from the mainland?
Orlando City is trading Mohamed El Munir to LAFC for John Matinho.
Yeah, it's the one.
My vision of my head of John Matinho is just watching him get cooked in Mercedes-Benz Stadium earlier this year, and he might be one of those guys who just finds it as he plays and just needed a change of scenery, or he just needs more time. And I think there's talent there, but man, he got worked in this stadium early in the year, and then got sent off with a red card with a blatant elbow on a free kick.
There's that. I like his technical ability. I think he's a player who can play. I just don't know what position he is, and that was the knock on him coming out of the combine, was where does he play at this level? And I don't know. I think it's as a central midfielder. I think it's as a Darlington Nagbe-esque 8.
Yes. I think that's where my head is kind of at as well. Is he kind of that Darlington Nagbe 8 who can drop back and do a bit of defensive work if you need him to, but can be technical in the midfield and kind of link up with an attack and be that middle ground? Because there were times last night where I'm getting the vapors from Miguel Almiron and Darlington Nagbe linking up in the midfield. Also, I think Nagbe really wanted to score against his whole team.
Oh, yeah,
that guy was taking shots from 25 yards out.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Our friend Shiva asks, I would not miss the parade for anything tomorrow, but concerns about the turnout due to workday and weather. That would be a shame. The workday part of it, I mean, parades when they happen are during the week. That's just how it goes. It always is. You very rarely see a parade for a team on the weekend. And look, with this schedule coming up, with all the moves that are going to happen this week, you couldn't do it next weekend. You wouldn't be able to do that. It'd be even weirder with players who would not be part of the team anymore, technically. that's the tricky thing about it. Every MLS team that's won has had to deal with this moment, and it's difficult. The weather is probably the biggest concern for the turnout, but honestly, the way people work now, I think it's very different than it was in '95 in terms of work from home, flexible work schedules, these types of things. So I think it's going to be a pretty amazing turnout. I think it's going to be a pretty special day tomorrow in downtown. So the weather is probably the thing that might keep a few people away, but people will be watching and people will be listening, and it will be absolute and utter chaos.
There's always there's always the Waffle House for you. You can go get fed at the Waffle House afterward, so you can go warm up there.
There's that, and I might do that actually. That might be the perfect way to end it.
It's better than when I tried to walk from the station last night to the Art Center MARTA station. Almost got blown away by the weather on the way to the game.
Can we talk about one thing that I have not? Yeah, I saw your videos. I was like, man, it was rough. My umbrella turned
bad.
Inside out like 5 times walking back to my car. Let's talk about one thing that I haven't had a chance to even reference yet: the tifo.
Yes, the Red Bull slander was amazing.
The Red Bull slander was amazing. Just the fact that.
By the way, congratulations, Red Bulls! You're in CONCACAF Champions League again.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Y'all welcome.
You're welcome, New York Red Bulls. You get a trip to the Dominican Republic and a very nice draw in the round of 16 in the CONCACAF Champions League, thanks to Atlanta United's win last night. And Portland, sorry. We're very sorry for you. But the tifo and the MLS 3.0 thing, I don't think we can say that we came up with that. I don't know if anybody can say they originated it. I know we've talked about it a lot. And I thought that was such a cool symbolism of last night, because I felt like the Toronto-Seattle final in 2016 on the eve of Atlanta United coming into the league felt like the MLS 2.0 conclusion, and felt like this was MLS 3.0. I mean, I think that's probably when we started talking about it, was on our show for the trade window in 2016 after the first Toronto-Seattle final, because I remember us really talking about that thought a lot. I don't think MLS 3.0 is over, but this showed the importance and the power of it. And to see that symbolized in the tifo last night, that was really cool.
It was. It's not over. It might be the crescendo for me, I guess. This might be the crescendo of 3.0, and then eventually you're going to get the 4.0, and eventually, look, I mean, teams are going to keep up. Teams are going to adjust. I think they already have in a lot of places, and other places are adjusting. As they adjust, I think what we're going to see beyond that is, I think we're going to see beyond all that adjustment is, somebody's going to say, well, how can we shift the paradigm again and go to 4.0? So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of questions about how teams kind of figure this out now going forward, and how they put things together. I'll be very interested to see how they do put everything together, and how they try and match with Atlanta did, and try and surpass Atlanta. And it's good. It's good that you have teams that are out here deciding, hey, we're going to be better. We're going to be better. We're not going to catch you. We're going to pass you. Good. It's good for the league. Everything moves forward.
Yeah, and that's something, I think John's back with us now. That's something that, to me, is, we talked about it with Doug, and I don't want this to be, well, Atlanta spent more money than everybody, because Atlanta launched a team, so they had to spend money, first off. But they did not spend on salary anywhere near what Toronto spent. They spent money on transfers more than anybody else, and that is a big difference. But I don't think you have to only take that, well, you have to spend money to be good in this league. I think you have to be a committed owner, and you have to give people resources to compete, and you have to make smart decisions. That's the part that is underrated to me, is how many misses have there been with this front office on decisions? I honestly can't think of many.
No, and that is rare air indeed. When you're trying to sit there and think of missteps, and I'm going back as far as in the launch and the community with grassroots, with front office, everything has been hit the right way. And, when you have that run that you've been on, you sit there and it's like, okay, how do we continue this kind of momentum? And I look forward to seeing how they're going to continue to build on this. And as a bit of a side note, I think last night was the first time in a long time that I have been hugged by someone from behind who is 6 feet 6 inches and had all of the air taken out of me simultaneously.
There's that.
Not that I was complaining about it, but it was getting a bear hug from Jarrett last night. It took me a couple of minutes to get my breath back on a couple of different occasions.
Yeah, it was one of those nights. It was a very cool, special night for anybody who's followed this team from day one, and I was really glad we were able to capture some of that in our post game on 92.9, and the full-time report's up on the website 929thegame.com. It's up on the Off the Woodwork folder on iTunes. And Mike and I talked about everything from the match and just, our feelings, but we were also able to get, J. Sam Jones from Dirty South Soccer and Felipe Cardenas from The Athletic, and Doug joined us, and you joined us, John, and Jimmy and Jarrett, and everybody was able to talk about it a little bit. I was just so happy with, beyond the game itself, having 6 hours of coverage from the stadium last night that captured the scene, and then 2 hours before that from CCV and Jarrett back at the studio to get it all rolling. 8 hours of coverage for MLS Cup in Atlanta, and to have all of the guests I mentioned on the full-time report, and then to have Jake Ziven and Ross Smith from the Portland broadcast team. I mean, they are
cool.
One of the best in the league. Awesome guys. I felt horrible for them. They were right next to us, and as I was looking to my left, I was looking at their booth and the emotion on their end. I mean, it was a long ride for them. They had an amazing postseason run that came up one game short. Great guys, and to take that time and be so open and just welcoming to having that conversation with us on air. It was great. 2 great guys, and one of my favorite listens around the league. Dan Cordemonch, the executive VP of the league in charge of communications. Kind of a busy guy yesterday. Had lots of stuff going on, and he took time for us off the top of the show and was very open talking about the league. Didn't give us, league speak or any of that. He was open and talked about some of the challenges, some of the things the league is looking to grow, some of the things coming up. Dan was awesome, and Dan's been that from day one as this club has come together. He's really made himself available to Atlanta media, and he does take pride in it. He did go to high school here, and he went to the University of Georgia, so it is personal for him. And then we had another national roundtable. Charlie Boehm came back again. You can read his stuff everywhere, MLSsoccer.com, Soccer Wire. The guy's everywhere. And he had a great piece last night about this being the most crunk MLS Cup final of all time. So go check that one out.
Because we the kind of people let the party get crunk.
Don't do that again. And then Jordan Culver from Pro Soccer USA and the Orlando Sentinel filled in for our buddy Jonathan Tannenwald on our roundtable of the league. And it was great conversation for about 20 minutes about where the league stands and the perceptions of Atlanta around the league and things that need to change going forward. And those 2 guys get it as well as anybody in the country. So to have all of that combined, Kevin Egan, running around everywhere. I saw him everywhere last night. To have him come in and sit down with us and catch up. It was a whirlwind. It was action packed, and it was a
Did
long,
you get to eat?
wild night. Yeah, I think I ate in between two different breaks. Thank you for getting me a plate of food, by the way.
Well, you kind of were locked into one place. You couldn't move.
Yeah. The mac and cheese was cold by the time I ate it, but it was still amazing because the Mercedes-Benz Stadium mac and cheese is always the best. And we had our cookies after the final, so that was very cool. After the full-time report, way after the final. So it was it was a long night, but all of the responses from all of you who listened to different parts of it or all of it or any of it, God, I don't even know where to start. So thank you. Thank you for everybody who was part of the day and night yesterday. Probably not the last time this is going to happen if Arthur Blank has his say and Darren Eales has his say and Carlos Bocanegra have their say. But you will always remember the first time, and you'll remember what it felt like. And you're going to remember what it felt like on Monday, too, with a parade through downtown Atlanta for Atlanta United. It's a big deal.
So, all right, and we know that multiple television stations are going to be covering / carrying. Fox Sports Southeast is the I guess the flagship thingy.
Yeah, Egan, Gargan, Sakovitz are all on that broadcasting
there you go.
live. Very cool for them to hang out and do that. And we know a couple other TV stations are doing it too. I don't know who yet. It's gonna be huge, and it will be from 1995 to now. It's a different time in the media world. I mean, I was at that parade. I don't remember what the coverage was like on local TV, but this is another universe for coverage. This will be covered more. I mean, it's crazy to think that, and it's not trying to diminish anything, but this is a big deal. Just whatever anybody wants to say about, well, does it count, or no, it's not as big a deal. Shut up. Just stop. Like,
sorry, I'm just looking at Darren's photo.
Yeah, Darren with the cup in his bed is pretty funny. You don't have to enjoy it personally if you are a member of the media that covers another league or sport or team or whatever. That's completely fine. That's cool. Nobody's asking you to. But to try to diminish it at this point, you look foolish. If anybody tries to diminish what happened yesterday, you just look foolish, and your opinion doesn't really matter anymore if that's how you think. So it's not worth yelling about. It's bless your heart and move on, and there you go.
Yes, and that's another scarf I need to pick up from Curtis.
I have mine on my wall behind me.
And I know what a lot of folks are going to be getting for Festivus. That is for darn sure.
Yeah, the thing that I will probably remember the most last night is watching the trophy presentation and watching Arthur Blank try to hold it together.
Yeah.
And try being the key word. And I was right there with him, and that was what got me. So that was maybe the coolest thing, because this is a guy that he bought the Falcons going into 2002, I believe late in 2001 or early in 2002. I remember 2002 season was the first that he was in charge of the Atlanta Falcons. You go back to the Falcons at that time, yeah, you'd made the Super Bowl in 98 and had a great season and surprised Minnesota to get there. But that was your only real moment. You had some good teams in the late 70s, early 80s, but you'd never had back-to-back winning seasons.
No,
and Falcons games were half full at the Georgia Dome. And credit to Rankin Smith for bringing the team here. I mean, that was a commitment when he did it, but he couldn't take it to the next level, and his family couldn't take it to the next level. Arthur could, and Arthur, as a citizen of Atlanta, took that on for the city and made the Falcons a powerhouse in the city, because at that time, They weren't the biggest team in town. The Braves were easily the biggest team in town at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, the Georgia Dome was half full. And Blank filled it up.
Sometimes the Hawks, mostly Georgia.
Yeah, and Georgia's a different category. I'm not even going to go there right now, but Arthur made the Falcons relevant, and he made the Falcons relevant in the community as well. And he brought his commitment to benefiting the community at large to the team and the organization, and that's had a huge impact, more than any of us would ever truly know. And as that was going on, I mean, Don Garber talked about it, and Dan Quartermuch talked about it with us yesterday. Like, MLS wanted to be here. They wanted to be here from day one before Don Garber, and then this was a city that Don Garber had prioritized and wanted to bring here. And once you saw what Arthur Blank was doing with the Falcons, you wanted him to be the guy to do it. And it took time for that to happen. It took time for the right things to come together, and it also took convincing of the league that this was going to be the way it was going to work. Arthur had that vision from way back. And I will always remember, and it's one of my most special memories in this game. My friend Chris Martz referenced it yesterday on Twitter. We went to MLS Cup in 2009. We won a trip. I won a trip. It was the early days of Twitter when I guess it was easier to win things. So I won a trip.
When there were less of you on Twitter.
Yeah, there were less of us. I won a trip from Best Buy and Panasonic to go to the 2009 MLS Cup, and we got passes as part of that to the swanky commissioners party the night before. And just the fact that at this event, like, these guys win some contest, and Don Garber comes over and talks with us for quite a while. It was very nice. Didn't have to be. And when he found out we were from Atlanta, like, the first thing he said to us was, "Don't worry, we're going to be in Atlanta soon. Don't worry. We're going to do it, and it's going to be right." And it was. And it was worth the wait. And now it's been done in a way that, again, it's Arthur Blank. Kasim Reed said it at the announcement in 2014. He said, "The red phone on my desk goes to Arthur Blank." Whenever this city has needed something, Arthur Blank has been there. And he really filled the shoes of a guy like Robert Woodruff, who was that man for Atlanta for a long time in his role at Coca-Cola. And Robert Woodruff did a lot of things behind the scenes to benefit the city in ways that you'd probably never know about. And there are so many different parks and public things that, yeah, some of them have Woodruff's name on them, but a lot of them don't. And a lot of times money showed up from an anonymous source. Well, Arthur's kind of the same way. He's always thought bigger than just business and making money. And I think Atlanta United was a lot of that for him. He was able to combine those two. And that's what was so cool about it, was this has always been a passion thing for him. So you look at Arthur Blank last night as Don Garber speaking and getting ready to hand over the trophy, and you look at him biting his lip, trying not to lose it. And you tell me it didn't mean as much as anything else he's ever done. That was a special moment. It was very cool to see him get that moment because he deserved it.
And, I mean, to see what it meant on as many faces as we saw coming into the building, the anticipation, and everybody wanting reasons to explode, one way or the other. And it was a point that you made last night on the air, I want to say in either in postgame or full-time. But just how the noise was at a certain level. Then you'd get a goal and it would go up, to another level. Then there was the anxiousness attached to 1-0. Then the Escobar goal, and it hits another level. Then when you and Mike finally call full time, and I think the phrase that you used was that your ribs were shaking.
Yeah,
final
I tweeted
whistle.
that. I tweeted that as we were talking about it last night. Yeah, it was a level of noise that I've never experienced at a sporting event.
And to see what it meant and to hear and to feel what it meant to everyone that was there and everyone that has reached out to us on social media, and you see the photos, you see the little videos, you see when we were doing full-time report how the Gulch was absolutely upside down and people were partying in the rain and it didn't matter. People were getting wet, and I hope that folks are taking care of themselves today and, just eating warm things and kind of dialing it back. And I know that there are going to be a lot of afternoon naps today. At least I would hope there are, because you got to pace yourself for a parade tomorrow. And just to see it get to this point, it's to say that it's really cool is really underselling it. But you can't really, it's overwhelming, it's cool, and to a fan base and to a front office and to a roster and to everyone associated with an organization, you just sit there and you go, enjoy it, love it, because you sure as hell have earned it.
100%. It was an absolutely special night. I mean, to read quotes from Greg Garza to say, tonight I came in at halftime, my ears were ringing completely, couldn't hear anyone speaking in the locker room. I mean, it's crazy. Charlie Bohm at MLSsoccer.com said that last night was the 7th MLS Cup he's been at, and the win stands in a class of its own, just like so many of the other achievements the Five Stripes have notched in their brief existence. It's, to me, and I've seen this taken so many different ways since the final last night, since the final whistle. It is a watershed moment for Major League Soccer. And that should be looked at as a positive. That should be looked at as a big thing. Now, can the league continue to hit these heights? That's a question, and that's a conversation to have. Do you get this spectacle in a smaller venue? Do you get the spectacle in every market around the league? It's different. In a smaller venue, if this final was in Portland, it would have been an amazing atmosphere and an amazing experience to be part of, for sure.
No doubt.
And in Kansas City, there are plenty of other markets that would have been outstanding hosts for this, and it would have been a great experience and a great situation. There's some that it wouldn't be, and that's something that the league needs to continue to strive for. I don't want to see a fear of what Atlanta United has accomplished. I want to see a motivation to match that in your own way, because you can. This isn't this is not the Cosmos days. And I totally understand where Doug was going as we kick things off. I totally get that. But this is a different time. And I think Atlanta has shown so many different ways that you can build a club and be competitive. And I think just the soccer in the country and the league itself and all those things, it's a different place now. Houston can be Houston and be competitive and committed and have great resources in their own way. Yes. Kansas City can do the same. Dallas can do the same. The Red Bulls can do the same. It might look different place to place and club to club, but the league needs to continue to grow and try to hit these levels on a regular basis in each market's own way. That's a big thing for this league to try to strive for.
You do you. That's the biggest thing I can really say. You do you. Don't try to be the second somebody. And that applies for more than just, what we're talking about when it comes to soccer. But the bottom line is figure out what works for you and be the best you that you can. I'm looking forward to seeing what Cincinnati does. I want to see how Cincinnati approaches things coming out of the blocks. We've already seen the the splash of Inter Miami. We know what we're getting with that. I want to see how Nashville continues to move forward. And I want to see what Columbus does. But do it in your way. Do it in a Columbus way. Do it in a Cincinnati way. Do it in an Inter Miami way. Do it in a Nashville way. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't take the lessons from it. And this goes back to the challenge that Arthur Blank gave at MLS All-Star. But do things in a way that will make you stand out as your own identity. Don't be the copycat of somebody else, because that may not work for you in the long run when it comes to figuring out your own personality. Do what you do. That's it.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up in a couple minutes because I'm going to actually go eat something because I'm kind of hungry.
There you go.
And I'm going on about maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep. I think I might have.
You got a nap coming, son.
Yeah, at some point it'll happen. Couple things that are starting to make the rounds here. TV ratings, and these are preliminary. National rating on Fox was a 1.2. That is the best rating for a Cup final since 1998, and up 71% compared to last year. That's a lot. It was on Fox versus ESPN, but still. And top 5 markets were obviously Atlanta and Portland. Portland had a 7.3 in their local market. Atlanta had an 11.5. John, you can probably give better context than this, but I was talking to folks from Fox 5 at the Media Mixer Thursday night, and they were optimistic that this would hit double digits, and that puts it in Falcons type of territory. This is a big deal to see an 11.5 local rating for this.
Yes, and usually what you're looking at when you're talking about 11.5s, I mean, a lot of times when you're looking at big event programming, you're looking at things that could be 20s, 30s, 40s, like Super Bowls. Say like Atlanta, the Falcons are in the Super Bowl. You're looking at a 40. For MLS in this market to hit double digits, if my math is correct, you're probably talking about 230,000 households, because I think it's 22,000 per point. Mm-hmm. So 200, say 250,000 households only in the television viewing sense. That does not include devices. That does not include apps. That does not include streaming.
And we know that's a big part of the soccer audience for sure.
Yeah. So from an over-the-air perspective, in your home market, to have basically a 250,000 households watching, that is absolutely blow the doors off.
Yeah. Fox 5 did good business last night, and that's why they had a ton of coverage all the way around it, pre and post and everything. That's a very important number here. That's a very important thing to keep in mind with this. And this is something that, I've talked about a lot. Portland, 7.5. To outdraw Portland, and this is the important part here that I want to make before we wrap up. To outdraw Portland when the game was in Atlanta, and you had 73,000 people, give or take 2,000 to 3,000 Portland fans there. I don't know I know they had 1,700 tickets allocated. There were more than the 1,700 Portland fans.
So let's say
there,
2,000.
So we'll say 2 to 3. Give them that. So 70,000 Atlanta United fans in the building, plus that kind of rating, plus streamed, plus watch parties, plus the region. That's the difference that Atlanta United's creating here. I think in a lot of markets, the fan base for a team is who you see in the stadium, game in and game out. For Atlanta United, that's not the case. And that is something for MLS to wrap its head around. And that is something for other clubs to strive for. Because I don't think there's another one that's anywhere close to that ballpark. When you look at a fan base for, a New York Red Bulls, it's the hardcore fan base that is in the building. And that's, for the most part, it. You obviously get some reach in terms of TV and people who don't go to the games on a regular basis. but not this kind of reach. And now the job for Atlanta United is to continue to cultivate that and continue to grow it, because there were a lot of people who were very engaged in this event last night. There were a lot of people who will be, engaged by the parade on Monday. Now it's continuing to get them on board and being part of this club, whether it's buying tickets, buying gear, being emotionally invested. This is the kind of watershed moment that doesn't get talked about enough, but is a huge part of Atlanta United's growth.
Looking forward to seeing the next steps. That's all I can say. But the first next step is a party.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first next step was options on contracts, which was
true.
Man, probably some tough decisions to be made. You would expect all of them were already made, but those were turned into the league at noon. Not sure when there will be an announcement about that, but I would assume that it would come today or maybe tomorrow morning. If it's possible to keep it under wraps until after the parade, I'm sure the club would love to do that, because the players who were part of this journey deserve all of the adulation that they get tomorrow. There doesn't need to be a mixed signal about it. If that can be helped, it might not be able to be helped. That will be part of this process. But tomorrow, parade, 10 o'clock, downtown Atlanta, coverage on Fox Sports Southeast, coverage on local TV, multiple stations, coverage on 92.9 The Game. I think somehow we're broadcasting from in the parade. I don't know. I have no idea. Eric Davis is a wizard, and I'm just going to roll with it.
Undefeated Eric Davis, sir.
The undefeated Eric Davis. He was with us for Miller Pope, our longtime engineer and the dean of sports engineering when it comes to Atlanta. Miller is in Green Bay, but he was with us in spirit last night for sure, because Miller's been with us from day one over at Bobby Dodd. Very cool night. Very cool to catch up with you guys today. No official deals announced as we sign off. Just the rumors that we've discussed. Orlando could have a couple incoming. Vancouver could have one incoming. Nothing in terms of follow-up on Greg Garza to Vancouver. Never saw that really referenced again by big-time outlets. Zach McMath could be headed to Vancouver. Maybe some things get announced this afternoon. Stay tuned, MLSsoccer.com. Stay tuned to us on Twitter at SoccerDownHere. We will be with you at some point tomorrow. It's looking like a combined Soccer Down Here, Soccer Over There type of show, late afternoon, early evening. And John will probably not be with us, correct? Because you'll be preparing for a lot of
no, it's a Monday, if it's Monday night, like I said, I've got artwork and all that kind of stuff. But Monday, I'll be with you. Tuesday, okay. Wednesday, I will
Monday,
not.
You'll be able to chime in. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Monday, I'm with us. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm not, because I've got high school football. And Thursday, I'll be back. But obviously, I may not have a voice, so we'll see how long that goes.
Yeah, that's all good. So tomorrow, just stay tuned to our Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Thanks everybody who listens. Thanks for all of the kind words last night and this morning, and sharing your experiences with us. Thanks to everybody who made last night a special night. We'll be talking about it tomorrow in various forms or fashions all over different outlets. It's going to be a wild day in this wonderful city of Atlanta, Georgia. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha parade, y'all.